Hello, this is my mind map of the history of reading in the 20th and 21st century that I am going to explain to you. I first want to start off with my central image of a door, a welcome mat, and children walking through the door. The open door is the perspective that I have, an image to me that shows new theories and practices that have been thought of from theorists that help teach reading. And new theories are introduced and used throughout the decades in the 20th and 21st century. And educators keep an open mind and an open door, to new ideas on teaching reading. Educators also have accepted the fact that some ideas were ineffective through the years, and they needed to have an open mind and open a door to new ideas. The welcome mat, I think, also elaborates the fact that there are new ideas of theorists welcoming new ways on how to teach reading. The children I have in the central image show the idea that children have been and will always continue to be the sole focus on an educator's mind when teaching. And throughout the 20th and 21st century, educators have been trying to teach reading to children in an engaging and effective manner. I'm going to start my mind map by going over, before the 20th century, the two extremely popular books that show the foundation of reading. We have the New England Primer and the McCuffey Reader. Those two were very popular. Going into the early 1900s and into the 1920s, we have the idea of reading instruction being separate from the appreciation of literature, and that was formed by Edmund Burke Huey. We also have in the 1900s different theorists had their ideas on oral reading and silent reading from their reading research. I have this quiet please picture to emphasize Judd's idea that silent reading is better. I have a picture here to show the understanding of Ernest Horn's 5 rules of spelling, and his theory that teaching is similar in the sense of teaching math as well. Going into the 1930s, we have the radio, and that was scary for teachers and educators, thinking that the radio being introduced at this time would interfere with the child's learning. And I have a red arrow here to show that the idea of technology is scary, coming back around to our time, and how iPhones, new technology, are overwhelming and a little bit scary for educators, thinking that that's going to impede a child's learning in some way. Not always, since technology is effective, of course. We also have basils were introduced, and we have, going into the 1940s, we have Louise Rosenblatt, and she helped develop the early reader response theory. Also going into the 1940s, we had Dick and Jane books were used, and oral reading was significant as well as writing. Going into the 1950s, I have a star here to show that this was the turning point in the century, and it was a positive change through reading research. I have the check. A check to me sometimes means mastery, and that check shows Arthur Flesch's idea that once children know how to write all of their letters and know the sounds that they make, that then they can go on to learning letter combinations. So once that's mastered, they may go on to the other idea. I have a picture of a child writing, saying, "I love writing." This shows in this part of the decade that writing programs were increased in demand, and different reading and writing programs were introduced and different strategies. We have SQ3R here as a visual. Going into the 1960s, we have the 3 cueing system. I have a small group instruction table here that explains the importance of the developmental reading activities, and I still think that we use a lot of those ideas and practices today, so I think that that is very important. We have Gina Chow's Great Debate going into the 1970s, and she wrote the book The Great Debate, and that was created to help end the debate on approaches to reading, the different approaches. And I think that we also use a lot of her reading principles today. I thought that those were very important. Also going into the 1970s, whole language lives on. That is my picture to show the whole language idea, approach to reading, and that words should just be recognized. And different from the popular phonics instruction approach. And I have that picture here to show 2 different thinkers, and one breaking down the word table into the sounds that it makes, and then just recognizing the word over time. So those are the 2 different ideas. And then another picture here to show the different approaches. Phonics, whether some learn with phonics better or the whole language approach. And the war would continue to go on into the 80s, the reading war. And the balanced literacy approach was introduced to have both whole language and phonics instruction. And then going into the 1990s, that is when the reading war is over, and the balanced literacy approach was determined to be the most effective way to help with teaching reading. We also have Adams. She published a book, Thinking and Learning About Print. That is why I have the picture here to show printing and handwriting. Later on in the 1990s, we have the Program of Excellence that the government had provided to children. That early childhood was supposed to be the time that children would be given those early skills to help them become a better reader by 3rd grade. And we also have, going into the 2000s, we had the National Reading Panel met to address the effectiveness of different approaches to teaching reading. And I have the picture here to show that phonemic awareness, fluency, vocabulary comprehension, all of those different components that entails. And then in 2002, we have the No Child Left Behind Act and Education Reform Plan that was signed by George W. Bush. Going into 2011 and to our present time today, we have the Common Core Learning Standards and New Jersey standards that we use as current expectations of what students all around the country are expected to learn. And that is my mind map for the history of reading in the 20th and 21st century. Thank you.